Hey there, and welcome to Conversations Worth Your While. It's the podcast where we dig into ideas and insights that help you to unleash what you are born to bring. I get to chat with heart led experts and ask the questions that I know you're thinking about and explore conversations that will spark growth, shift your perspectives, and help you to show up fully in your life, at work, for your family, for your community, and everywhere. Today, here's our title. It's a good one. Your moment, your move. Shift how you show up to own what matters. Now, this
Mm.
conversation is worth your while. I hear some noise from Michael. Like, oh, yeah.
Preach. Preach.
So, this conversation is worth your while because the shifts that create the life that you want don't have to be long or hard. If you realize that small, doable changes could make a real difference, I know you would start today. And since time is your most precious resource, there's no better moment than now to step into what truly matters. And today we're going to show you a proven protocol for taking the small steps that matter. I'm your host, Linda Bucher. And if the life you're in no longer fits, then this space is for you because through this podcast and through my coaching, I guide you to shed what no longer fits, to reconnect to your gifts, and to bring your life into alignment with who you are and what you want. And if that sparks something within you, you can find me at lindabucher.com. Okay, today, again, conversation is going to be your moment, your move. Shift how you show up to own what matters. And today, I have the pleasure of being joined by Michael Loftin of Choice Point Protocol. And Michael is making beautiful ripples in this world in his own very unique way. Michael teaches people to recognize their paths so that they can show up as their authentic best selves. Hi, Michael. Thanks for being with me today.
Hi, Linda. How you doing?
Super good. How about you?
Yes, you are. I'm fantastic and very excited from the intro alone. I'm already in tears. So don't make me cry.
We call those truth tears when it
Is that
resonates
what
like,
it is?
whoa.
Okay.
Right, yeah. Okay. Please tell everybody a little bit more about what you do and who you serve and, these beautiful ripples that you're making in the world.
Okay. Thank you very much. First off, thank you for allowing me to be on the show. I really appreciate the opportunity to share, and also I greatly value your work and what you're doing and putting out there in the universe is beautiful. So thank you for that first. Okay. Myself, I have a full-time job as eye and arm candy. So I do that full time. When I'm not eye and arm candy, when I'm not doing that, then I also I periodically help people, right? But like we know what the full time job is. Now I work with people and I help them recognize specific moments in their lives that they can change. Because when we say that we want to change our lives, Linda, many times we say it, but it's not really the entire thing that we change. We really want to change specific moments. And
Mm.
so I've created this system that's really helpful in recognizing the moments first and then reminding yourself to show up as you know that you possibly can in that moment. So I can't wait to share the space with you and talk more about
Well, I love that you said the word moment 30 times because life is a series of moments. And I would like to remind our audience that you only ever have to get through this one.
it.
Because when you're trying to get through a moment that hasn't happened yet, way out in the future, or a moment that happened in the past, you're not in this moment. And this is the only one that you can actually be in right now because it's the only one you can make a change in. And I'm so excited that we're going to learn more about your protocol and talk about that. So first,
Fantastic.
let's address the challenges. Okay. So someone is probably listening to this, shift how you show up to own what matters, or like, yeah, that sounds so good. I'm not sure what it means, but I know it sounds so good. So let's talk about the
Right.
challenges that someone who might gravitate to this conversation will have. So this is for you if you are an overthinker, if you feel stuck, if you're a conflict avoider, if you are really good at prioritizing the needs of others over your own. So let's talk a little bit more about these challenges and why they're actually there.
Right. There is a responsibility burden that we call ourselves empaths. I like to use the term harmonizer. People pleaser, every time I hear it, it sounds so abrasive. I'm like, no, it's not it. But it's this conflict avoidance component where there's who we are and we recognize that, we care so much for people and we want to do things for people. And so what ends up happening is we prioritize other people's needs before our own. And we lose ourselves in this process and feel guilt ridden because of it. I mean, Linda, I know as a coach, and you've had so much experience and so much talent, I'm sure that you have seen your clients face the same problems.
Yeah, I actually lived it before I became a coach. Maybe it's, like I'm still a recovering perfectionist, I'll call it. And the thing about perfectionism is we do it to try to avoid judgment and criticism.
Right,
But the act of avoiding judgment and criticism involves judging and criticizing ourselves the whole entire time. So you're not
right.
actually avoiding it, it's self-inflicted. So what's happening is we're trying to meet the needs of others. We're trying to avoid conflict because we don't want other people to judge us. We don't want them to criticize us because that will reinforce our underlying belief that we're not worthy, that we're not good enough, which is
That is,
for another conversation, but that's where everything must start. You must repair that sense of worthiness because only then can you truly escape making someone else's criticism or judgment mean something about you when in fact it doesn't mean anything about you.
mhm,
It means something about them. And
yeah.
that's gonna dovetail into your protocols, but let's not let the cat out of the bag for that yet.
Not just that, but just saying that, Linda, it's so true. And stage one is always that recognition and understanding and seeing the behavior. And what is so frustrating for our harmonizers, for our conflict avoidance, for overthinkers, is that we miss the opportunity to just be wrong, right? Like we miss it because when we're wrong, we have the opportunity to then grow from it. We have the opportunity to learn. We can study. We can see what happens. The whole point is really to fail faster. So the faster we can fail, the quicker we can get to success. But if we have to be perfect, we're delaying the opportunities to fail, right? And so you're 1,000% correct. One just spot on.
I love that you brought that up. That's a really great way to look at it. You are starving yourself of the opportunity to grow when you are mired in perfectionism and people pleasing. Um, that's a great way to look at it. And I don't think too many people want to stop growing. Like I remember, this is just
Hmm.
a funny
Right.
little aside, but I remember when my son was my oldest went in the Marine Corps at 18 years old, and
Oh,
he
wow.
after after he came home from like boot camp, so he's 3 months in. His brain has been molded very tightly over those 3 months. Just put it that way.
Hmm.
And he came back with some um, opinions and thoughts, and when I would question to be open-minded about them, he didn't want to hear it. And I just asked him this one question. I said, can I ask you something? I mean, you're 18 years old. Is this as smart as you ever want to be? Like, if are you putting that ceiling on this right now? I just want to know. And he was like, wait a minute, no. And at that moment he realized that he was going to have to be uncomfortable in order to grow. He was going to have to open his mind to things that he didn't know before, and maybe even to completely opposing opinions, in order for him to grow. So I just thought that was a good little thing to bring up right now. So we've talked a little bit about like why, right? So why we get stuck in this overthinking or avoiding conflict, right? We're really trying to avoid judgment, criticism.
Hmm.
We're not learning. It has tentacles that go pretty far, doesn't it? Whenever we have one
Yeah,
little
it
thing, we
does.
think it's just, oh, it's just this one little thing. Absolutely not. Long-reaching tentacles. Sometimes we don't sleep well because we're overthinking. We don't eat well because we're overthinking. We don't say yes to ourselves because we're so busy saying yes to everybody else. So we're not taking care of ourselves health wise. We're not
Oh,
we're
yeah.
not giving ourselves what we need. And when we don't give ourselves what we need, we can't show up as our best selves for the people that deserve our best selves.
That's right. Linda, there is an understanding when we're at home, and sometimes the toughest time of day, people, is right after they get in bed, but before they go to sleep, right? Because in that moment, the lights are off, it's just you, there's no stage, you don't have to act. the mask is off, and then you have to have the accountability and say, wait, am I proud of the person that I am today? Am I proud of the person that I was throughout? And that time can keep people up all night long, just
Yeah.
thinking or scrolling on their phones because they want to avoid it, right?
Right.
Like doing
Avoidance.
anything
Yep.
that they
Distractions.
like, get this out of here. But that's really the toughest time of the day. So
Mm.
can you be at home in your bed at night before you go to sleep? Who are you then? Are you proud of that version of you? And that's what we're trying to do. The best version of ourselves turns off the light, goes to sleep. Why? Because they're not worried about it, because they know that when the moments that matter throughout their day, they showed up as their authentic selves. That's what we're here.
All right. So let's talk about moments. All right. Each moment, each situation in the moment is an opportunity. And if we start with just that, instead of saying, oh, this is happening to me, how is this an opportunity? Let's move into what you've beautifully packaged into a protocol, which has four buckets for it's I guess you use an acronym, so we'll start with
Mm-hmm.
that. um, and what this opportunity is. So talk about your protocol, what it's called, and how it is an opportunity, and then let's move into the first part of the acronym.
Sure. So the acronym is called ALPS. And when we think of moments, right, we think of the space between stimulus and response,
Mm.
right? There's a space. And there's in between stimulus and response, that space is reserved for choice. And so the acronym ALPS stands for that space, right? It recognizes and it really embodies that choice. It's kind of like the steps of choice, you could say, right? And so that first one is awareness.
Okay, so A is for awareness. And
Hmm.
so if we can be aware that this situation, this moment, is we don't have to change our whole life way out there. It's just awareness of this moment. What's happening in this moment? And
Right.
I like to share with people that a situation in a moment is neutral. I know they don't seem neutral because
Oh,
they're
I love
they're
it.
not neutral as soon as you attach your story to them and you have an
Right.
emotional response. We put the as humans put the emotional charge. That's why something can happen and one person can be unaffected, another person can be angry, another person can be scared, but the same thing happened. And it has to do with the emotional charge that each individual puts on it based on the story they're telling about it.
Hmm. There's a great saying. It's life is either positive, negative, and neutral. And that's it. And the story that we create about the positive, negative, and neutral experiences creates our world. And when
Right.
we adopt that principle, we have so much power because we now get to define whatever it is that we're experiencing, whatever that stimulus is, we get to define it as positive, negative, and neutral. That's up to us. And that's a lot of power.
It is. And we're going to talk about how. So that's going to be exciting. Okay.
Right.
So A is awareness. Where are we going
Hmm.
next?
So we're going to, from awareness, we're going to think about your senses, right? It can be one of your five senses or your memory or whatever it is. Like something can pop up that gives you that awareness, whether or not you see something, you're walking down the street, you're like, oh my gosh, that smells like donuts, right? Do you have a good donut place in your town? We have a really good donut place. And let me tell you what, I don't think about donuts until I smell it. And once I smell it, I'm just like, oh, baked
Yeah. Now
goods,
you're thinking about
right?
donuts all day.
Like, I'm fine with my diet until I smell it, and the next thing you know, I have the awareness of that donut smell, and I'm like, what diet, right? And so we go from awareness to L, which is life experience, right? It's like the L of life experience is really powerful. Anyone that has ever attended a lovely Thanksgiving dinner, right?
Mhm.
You know it, or the foodies out there. I'm sure you guys are out there, right? I'm sure you're out there. You know how it is. The second that you smell something, maybe it makes you smell like, or think of your mom's lasagna, or it makes you think of like a barbecue. That I love the smell of burgers on the grill because when you smell a burger on the grill, it means winter's over. Right? It's
Mm,
like,
right.
oh, so the awareness is in this example, the awareness is the smell of a burger on the grill. The life experience is everything that now has been contextualize just by having the awareness of that sense. It's so much fun.
So L is for life experience. And what we're doing
Hmm.
is we're filtering that awareness through all the experiences we've had in our life. And that is the existing narrative or the existing story we're telling
That's
from
right.
past history. We're putting it onto this current moment. That's what's happening with our life
Absolutely.
experience because our brains want to make sense of what's happening. And we can only make sense based on the information we already contain in our minds.
You got it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, good. All right, next, P. What is P for?
P is for pattern recognition. So the pattern, now we become aware of a stimulus. We filter it through our life experiences. Our life experiences are now kind of giving this awareness some shape. Now we really continue to filter and we go through a pattern, right? And the example I like to use with this is the PTSD, like our soldiers, right? Our military men and military men and women. Don't let me get it twisted, but our military people that are out there fighting, they may hear something, right? Say they hear a car backfire. Their awareness is they hear it. Their life experience associated with that backfire is traumatic, right?
Mhm.
Now that becomes part of their pattern because the pattern that they've understood when they hear that car backfire is I need to be prepared. This means
Mhm.
my life is now on the line. Now, it could have been 10 years out, 20 years out, 30 years out, 40 years out, 50 years out. But because it's so strong, because this pattern, right, the structure is so strong in that moment, that individual is feeling it. They have now been transformed. It's like a time warp that has moved them from this moment right into their past. It's extremely powerful.
Okay, so that's a really good example because it really highlights the fact that different people experience the same thing in very different ways that we talked about earlier. And so far, we've talked about awareness of the situation that we usually get through our senses, L for life experience, which
Mhm.
helps us make sense of what's happening, and then the pattern, the of the recognizing of this pattern. This is all happening in that space between stimulus and choice. All of these
Yes.
three things.
Right. Yeah. So right in between stimulus response, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I'm aware. Here's my life experience. Oh, this is the pattern that I'm having. And it brings us to our next step, right? And our final step, which is S, solution, our solution. And our solution is how we begin to think about the stimulus. It frames our thought, right? And so in the example of the donuts, I'm walking by the donut shop. Everything is fine. I'm super. I'm not sure if your audience can tell, but I'm so young and super ripped. It's really crazy. It's honestly, it's so sad. But so young. Don't worry about the gray. I prematurely went gray in my 50s. But besides that, so I'm walking by the donut shop. I'm on this diet and I'm trying to stay lean, right? But I become aware of it. And my life experience of that smell says, oh my God, it's delicious. Delicious. I love sweets. What's my pattern? My pattern is I can't turn down sweets. And the next thing you know, the thought pops into my head. I should probably have a donut. Like, why not? Maybe I'll have a donut, right? Or
It's just one.
quickly, just one, right? It's
It's just
fine.
one.
It's not
Well,
gonna
it's not
affect
gonna get
me.
no. Yeah.
Right. Right? So yeah, so that is like kind of the entire flow of it. Or it could be, I've had this, some of my clients, maybe you have too, as a recovering alcoholic, right? I can remember the sound of my parents' shoes on the floor. And I could tell which parent it was. And I've had clients who kind of they were children of adult alcoholics. And for them, their senses had to be keen because
Mm,
they knew there was an emotional threat based on the sound of the shoe. So
mhm.
in that moment, the awareness is I hear my mom or my father's shoes. The life experience says I need to pay attention to that, the sound of that shoe, because I need to know if they sound angry. Then that's the pattern is recognizing the sound. And then the thought is, okay, what's going to happen here? Right. And so that person has gone through that system and we all do it. We do it when we're scrolling on our phones. We do it when we're going through, we especially do it when we're looking for a movie on Netflix. What do? You start going through Netflix and you start looking at all of the thumbnails. The second that you see a thumbnail that's interesting, awareness, life experience, pattern recognition, solution. Okay, well, this sounds interesting. Maybe I'll check out this title or watch the intro. So Linda, we do it all the time. Does this sound
Yeah.
crazy? Am I nuts?
No, no, you're absolutely right. So now let's share with the audience how to use this protocol as a choice, because the name of your company, choice point protocol, because when we have the space between stimulus and response is a choice point. So
Hmm.
let's walk through one more time, but this time with the how. Now that we know this is how it works, period. That's how it works, right?
Hmm.
How do we use how it works to make the moments matter?
So with my guys that are conflict avoidance, people pleasing, and that was me big time. It's always in my nature to say yes. What is that you need? Okay, yes, because conflict has historically been problematic, right? So the choice point protocol is recognizing the awareness. Someone asks to do something. Hey, can you help me move? I know it's your wedding day, but can you help me move? Of course I can, right? Sure, no problem, right? So then there's the request that's out, or your boss asks, "Hey, can you work this week?" Now you have the awareness. Your life experience is I don't necessarily want to say no because I don't want to feel that I'm in trouble. And so it's not about the stimulus. It has less to do with nothing, actually has nothing to do with the stimulus and everything to do with ourselves. In between, after our life experience, and once we recognize our pattern, there's a moment. There's a moment of choice. And that's the choice point where you can either be the version of yourself that you were in the past, or you can be the version of yourself that you know yourself to be. You have that choice. And the decision that you make in that moment will allow you to really kind of feel like you're honoring your authentic self because everyone understands the moments like when we say yes and we really mean no, it's for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 2 hours, 3 days, whatever it is afterwards. There is just this regret. And it's not the regret that we said yes, it's the regret that we betrayed ourselves in the moment. And
Right,
that's what affects us and it affects our self esteem.
right. So we can make big changes in a moment, but sometimes we're not ready for big changes in the moment. So I like to offer something to kind of soften. So you've become aware, A, you've filtered it through your life experience, L, right? P, you
Hmm.
recognize this is a pattern. This happens to me all the time. I always feel this way. Um, and the solution, sometimes we're not ready to take the solution to choose ourselves. It's not easy, especially if we haven't yet repaired our sense of worthiness. But what we can do is soften the way that we think. We can think, I'm willing to, just the beginning, those three words, I'm willing to make a different choice. I'm willing to discover how I might make a better choice this time around. I'm
Hmm.
willing to. So even if you're unable to do it or you don't know how right now, just I'm willing to is a beautiful step into choosing yourself. So because we're talking about becoming the best version of you, because that's what you deserve, that's who you deserve, and that's who your loved ones deserve. So I want to bring up, we talked about thoughts and beliefs, we just briefly, and we talked that circumstance or a moment, what's happening in that moment outside of our minds is neutral. We have a thought about it, and whatever we think about it, right, that's the pattern, that's our pattern recognition. We got to recognize, what am I thinking about this, and how we think about it is what causes our emotions. So if you don't like your emotion, that means you got stinking thinking. That's how I
Hmm.
put it. If you want a
Hmm.
different emotion, you need to have a different thought about that actual stimulus, that thing that's happening. Okay. If you, based on your emotion, if your emotion is fear, and some of these beautiful examples that you brought up, the emotion is fear because your thought is, I'm in danger. Okay. You
Right.
brought two examples up where that would be the thought, I'm in danger. And we think that that part of our brain, our amygdala, is so lightning fast. It's way faster than our frontal cortex that does the reasoning, like, are we really in danger? Maybe we should look around, get some more information before we panic.
Hmm.
That's far away. By the time that happens, all the blood's already left our brain, gone to our extremities for fight or flight, right? So when we feel like we're in danger, that's the thought. And when we recognize we're in the pattern, that's my thought pattern. Every time this happens, I keep thinking I'm in danger. And it makes me feel fear. How do I want to feel? How would I choose to feel if I were in charge? Because you actually are in charge of your thoughts.
Right.
Now, if I want to feel calm, then I need to have a different thought about that loud noise or footsteps coming down the hall. As an adult, children are not able to do this, but as an adult, I need to have a different thought. What different thought would feel better? It doesn't have to be the opposite thought, right? It doesn't have to be like, I'm totally safe, because you might not believe that. It won't work if you don't believe it. It has to be a thought
Right.
that is believable, like, I might not be in danger. Just that will alleviate some of the fear. Okay.
Linda, there's a cool concept. Not to interrupt you really quick, I just
That's
want to
okay.
add to it of a negative to neutral, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very difficult if you're feeling very negative at the time to say, I'm the greatest person on earth. People, my shit don't stink. Pardon my French, right? That's not gonna work, right? But what we will be able to believe is, what? Maybe I'm not as bad as I think I am. I've had success in my past. This is something I've been very positive at different moments of my life. And so the jump from negative to neutral is one that's believable. And the believable narrative is the one that we're willing to carry on with us and can actually meet us in the moments that matter. So I completely agree with what you're saying and just wanted to share that.
Yeah. Okay. So what I want to point out with, I only shared a little bit of this model so far. Um, but if your thoughts cause your emotions,
Hmm.
here's the thing that I think is really beautiful. Emotionally, someone else can't hurt you because it's your thinking that makes you feel hurt. Now, I'm not talking physically. People can physically
Mm.
hurt you. But when someone judges you, criticizes you, tells you you're nothing or you're wrong or you're selfish or get some insult, what you think about that, what you make that mean determines your emotion. So if your blood is boiling, it's because you are making it mean something that triggers you. And if you change how you think about that sentence, that or that human, like, oh, gee, that person might be feeling pretty bad right now, and that's the best they can do. And then you can have some empathy for them. Then your blood doesn't boil. Okay. So you have power when you recognize that every emotion that you feel as an adult, a thinking adult, right? Not actually in physical danger. I do want to really be careful about that, because when we're in physical danger, this does not apply. Okay. But
Hmm.
an adult not in physical danger, every emotion you have is caused by your own thinking. That puts you in control. That puts you in the driver's seat of that moment and therefore your life.
Right. I think Wayne Dyer said it best. When we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And that brings up what does your emotion cause, right? So we're feeling this emotion, whether it's negative or we've taken the time to say, oh, I need to think differently because I want to feel a different emotion. Your emotion informs your actions, and your actions inform your results. So if you don't like the result, you're going to need a different action. And if you need a different action and you want it to be different, you're going to have a different emotion. What emotion do you need to have the action you want to have to get the result you want to have? And in order to have that emotion, what are you going to need to think about this neutral circumstance? So you can work it backwards in any given moment to say, I'm feeling a certain way, and this is causing me to shut down. And my result is when I shut down, I get depressed, I feel lonely, nobody wants to be around me, whatever. What result do I want? I want to feel supported, right? Then what's my action need to be in order for me to feel supported? Maybe my action needs to be able to open up. In order for me to open up, how do I need to feel? I need to feel safely vulnerable. In order to feel
Hmm.
safely vulnerable, what do I need to think about this situation? So we can work this beautiful model backwards as well. It's a little different model. It's not your ALPS model, obviously, but it dovetails perfectly, because this is what's happening in this choice point. Is we have a
Hmm.
choice to choose how we think about the situation. That's your whole entire point of your beautiful protocol.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda. You've nailed it. It's so 100% accurate. Unfortunately, so many times as we look back and we start to reflect, we go back in our past with a gavel, right, in a robe, and we become the judge of our
Mm.
past instead of revisiting compassion and understanding. Because whatever it is that all of us went through, and everybody went through something, and we all got a bag of rocks to carry, right?
Mhm.
But whatever it is that we went through didn't take us out. We're still here. So the version of us that experienced some of the most challenging trauma, some of those most challenging moments, did their job. Their job was to fill the gap, get through that moment, get to the point in which we can grow and be who we are today and learn enough and have the skills to go back to that and then help them and reparent sense. Right. So,
Yeah.
love what you
Yeah.
said, Lynn. You're spot on.
Yeah. As a person who's been through a fair amount of diversity in my life, I can tell you there's no way I could be doing the beautiful work in the world, touching the people I'm touching and making the ripples I'm making if I hadn't gone through that hell over and over again in many different ways. And so that truth means that life is always happening for you, not to you,
Mm-hmm.
always happening for you, even in the darkest moments. It's giving you something that you will in turn be able to give to the world later on. It is helping you to discover the strength within you, your capabilities, your gifts, and that you are the one that you've been waiting for.
Amen to that. I love that. You are the. Can I write that down?
You can
Oh my
write
God,
that down.
I am stealing that totally from Michael
That's
Loftin.
okay.
You are the one. You. That is so good. That is so good. Oh, I love it. I absolutely
Mhm.
love it. Thank you so much. Okay.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. So I like to always finish up our conversation with something small. We have given our audience today something huge, huge, and so important. And if you don't learn from any other podcast ever on the face of the earth, what you're getting out of today will help you to move forward any way you want. It's the way it works. It's like having the keys to the universe. This is how it works. Oh my gosh, this
Mm.
is how it works. This is how it works. So that's huge and big. Now, sometimes what we do, we buy these books, right? We get this like all this good information, then we put the book down. We call that shelf help because it just sits on the shelf. So this would
Mm-hmm.
be like, we've given you something huge. I know, listener, that you need to digest all this. Luckily, you can play this podcast episode over and over again to
Please
really
do.
get and understand it. Slow it down, take some notes, jot down what really resonates, jot down your shifts and ahas, and let them marinate a little in you. Okay. But then we want to leave you with something small to actually be in action. Because if you're not in action and you're just perpetually learning, you're not really going to shift. So something in action, but inaction doesn't mean it has to be something that you're out physically in the world doing. Inaction to me is something you're doing inside. I actually just gave a client this morning, her action item was to give herself permission right? To take off the pressure, right? So that's an action item because she
Mm.
has to actually do it. So, what would you say would be something really small that a listener can do right now to be able to, you know, shift how they show up to own what matters?
Okay. Since everyone has a phone, what I would ask the listener to do is use your voice notes. Your voice notes can be such a powerful tool of understanding and compassion. When you have a moment and you didn't say or do whatever it was that really upset you, and you're like, and you're thinking these things, don't just think them. Take a second, take out your phone, and record them in your voice notes, right? But under this stipulation, you have to listen to it with compassion. Maybe
Mm,
it's not that moment, maybe it's the next day, but you listen
yeah.
to it and you just understand fully, hey, what was I going through in that, or what was that person going through? Because there's part of us that just wants to help. And when we hear that individual voice, we can separate ourselves from it, put down the gavel, put the judgment on the shelf for a second, okay? Put the judgment on the shelf, put the gavel, put the robe down, right? And then meet that voice with compassion and try to understand what was going on for that individual. It's not a big deal, and everyone has a phone, and all of your phones have voice notes. I can't tell you, I have hours of me just, right? So much of it. But when I replay them, I get an understanding of what's going on or what was going on with that person, that
Yeah.
version of me in that moment. And it can be really, really cathartic. So,
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. Actually, I give all my clients have growth activities they have to do between sessions, and one of them is to listen to the recording. And they're like, "Oh, I hate to listen to myself. I sound so whatever." I say, "No, you have to listen without judgment, listen with compassion, and your very smart brain will hear things that you know how like when we're too close to something we don't see it, we don't get it.
hmm.
But if we heard someone else say it, we'd be like, oh, they must be going through this or that. So we can have compassion for others. And when we learn how to have compassion for ourselves, we can have even more compassion for others and feel less attacked when they're
So
yelling
true.
at us or judging us. So
So
that is
true.
a beautiful small step. I love that. And I do encourage our listeners to do that today. Oh, wow. What a conversation this has been. Michael Loftin, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Linda, for having me. I appreciate it. Appreciate your time.
Oh, I appreciate yours as well. Now, I know you have something to gift to the audience. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
I have a clarity audit that I do, and I find it really helpful just for my clients. And so it's basically an audit. Like imagine understanding in 50 questions what your stress points are, what are things that you may be carrying, what are some of your patterns. And so once someone finishes their audit, then I meet with them. Free one-to-one session. Doesn't matter if we meet again after that, but we create a plan based on those 50 question audits. So it should be available in the show links, and
Yeah,
please use it. It's valuable.
I will definitely put that in the show notes. And
Thank you so much.
you are welcome. You're welcome. I have a tool if anyone is interested in rewriting their history, rewriting their old narrative. I have a tool
Mm,
called Power Shift available on my website. And that's definitely something to check out. The first couple lessons are just totally free to, you know, get through. And it's a really good DIY program if you're not ready to hire a coach, but you want to make some actual movement in the direction that Michael and I have been talking about today. And so that's something you can get at lindabucher.com. Okay. Thank you, Michael. Well, that is our show. And once again, I'm Linda Bucher on a mission to inspire and impact millions of people to know your worth and share your gifts, deliberately creating big, beautiful ripples in this world because that's what you're here for. So if this episode sparked something in you, please be sure to like it. Please be sure to share it with someone you care about and subscribe to this podcast. And then come back next week for another honest, uplifting conversation that will help you to grow. So until next time, make sure that you've made this conversation worth your while by fueling the spark that it ignited.